Hello everyone, welcome to my nature diaries. Today I want to share with you some sketchbook ideas that I think could be really helpful for your nature journal. I have a lot of nature journals and I thought what I would do is share with you some of the layouts. Some of these are very recent that I just did in these nature journals, just to give you an idea of all the different things that a nature journal can do. Now, I don't want you to think that these are the only ideas out there. There's so many ways that you can nature journal. These are just some things that I have learned in my nature journals, and I'm hoping that they will be helpful for you as well. My first idea is what I would like to call a yearly journal. Now, for a yearly nature journal, I try to get it done within 12 months, something around that time. It's not super important that it's 12 months exactly. It's just trying to keep it to a certain time period. This is my third one. And I really feel like I have a few tips that can help you if one of your goals is to actually complete a journal. And I feel like this way can really help. By keeping a yearly journal, what I'm doing is I'm keeping track in a diary kind of way of all the things that I've found on hikes or walks, explorations, anytime that I'm outdoors. Oftentimes we go on walks or hikes and find things and think about them, and then we, kind of forget them. But in this way, I'm able to take some of the best things that I have found. In this case, I'm highlighting 3 wildflowers that I found, and we can put them permanently in our nature journal. Having a yearly nature journal for me has forced me to come into focus on the moments of everything that I'm seeing and learning and discovering around me. Because I'm trying to put a deadline on this particular journal, it causes me to really stop and think, maybe I do want to journal that or take a photo of it or try to remember this particular plant, flower, bird, or whatever it is that I see. Think of this nature journal type as being something more like a diary that you would keep, like a 1-year diary of your thoughts. This is very similar, but of course we're including nature with it. However, it can really capture your thoughts along with what you found again in your walks or explorations when you are outside. Another thing I like about this style or type of nature journaling is the fact that I can nature journal the same plants over and over again, because this style is more about the experience and less just about learning about that particular plant. I often like to include, if you've seen some of my other videos, little scenes from the hike as well. I love the idea of capturing a moment in time and preserving it in your own way and how you see it, just like you would if you took a photograph. This is probably one of the most common types of nature journaling, where we're just nature journaling as we go in life. However, having a time limit on it really does change my perspective, and I love the idea that I am capturing a year or so within one single book. If you do decide to try out a yearly journal or nature diary like this, one of the things that you're going to want to consider is your sketchbook. If you have a sketchbook or watercolor journal that has a lot of pages, then you're going to maybe be frustrated because it's a lot to try to fill out in a certain amount of time. For that reason, I would probably stick to a medium to a large size journal even, because they tend to have less pages, especially in a watercolor journal. You can also take a larger journal and make it go over 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and that is completely okay as well. However, if we do stick to a sketchbook that has less pages, I think we're going to be so surprised at how great it feels when we finally complete it. Of course, these are just suggestions, and you can journal, of course, any way that you'd like. I just have found that by putting limitations on the type of journaling I'm doing, I actually am enjoying it so much better. This doesn't mean that you can't have a field sketchbook where you can just put anything that you want in it, practice in it, experiment in it. Of course, those are very needed for every kind of art practice. However, having something that is finished, complete, and feels cohesive, it's just a really strong, great feeling. And I encourage you, if you haven't tried this type of journal, a yearly nature journal, to give it a try. I think you're going to really like it. I'd love to hear from you in the comments if you have tried this type of nature journaling or journaling before, and if so, what were the pros and cons that you faced when you were journaling this way? This is my third annual journal that I have started. I'm on my spread 2, and I'm really excited to be able to get this done in 9 months and just look forward to seeing what I do next year. Another way you can journal is with a single subject. And I have a few of these types of journals, and I find that I really like them. They are something that's a little bit different if you haven't journaled this way before, but if you've already journaled, it could be a way to kind of expand your journaling. I wasn't nature journaling for very long before I started my very first single subject nature journal, and that was for trees. I figured this out after I added a tree layout to my very first yearly nature journal. I realized it wasn't big enough, and I wanted to include samples and other things and be very creative with this type of journal. So I've started this one, and what I do is I journal spring and then on the other side leave fall and maybe winter. Another journal that I started, but on a much smaller scale, was this one, and it's for mushrooms and fungus and anything that I see outside that looks really interesting. I tend to create these single subject journals when I want to learn a little bit more in depth about something in particular. By focusing on one particular subject, it does a couple things. It helps me to learn a little bit more about them, it forces me to study them, and I also learn how to draw and paint them. I also love the fact that when you have a single subject journal, if you find just one thing, like I found these specimens in my front yard and the other one was in a neighbor's yard and I couldn't really stop and journal them there. I still wanted to capture them in paint somehow, but I just didn't know where to put them, and these one subject journals really kind of fix that hole. Your one subject journals, of course, can be tailored to exactly what your interests are. If you have a medicinal herb garden, maybe you want to journal those plants, maybe your vegetable garden, or even just the flowers that you plant. You could also make them up of just different butterflies that you find, birds, whatever it is, again, that holds your interest. Another idea for a one-subject nature journal could be if you go on daily walks, perhaps maybe walking your dog, you can look for things, maybe just one thing that you can journal on each walk. You could label each spread as walk number 1, walk number 2, and so forth. You can create a spread in your journal by taking a photograph of something, just one thing that you've seen on your walk, and then bring that home, maybe even a plant sample, and then put that in your nature journal. There are so many different subjects that you can try. Another way that you can nature journal is by trying different styles. This is a great place to experiment, I feel like, in art. That's why I love nature journaling so much. We can really just explore art and different techniques and media as well. I wanted to share this point because I want you to understand that you can change your style just depending on what you need for whatever particular situation that you might be drawing or sketching in. When I'm nature journaling outdoors, I need to come up with some different styles so I can draw things as quickly as possible. It's okay to take really quick sketches and then fill them out later when you have more time to draw. For this layout I'm working on outdoors, I had a picnic table at a little local park, so I was able to obviously take some of these flowers and leaves and go ahead and draw them up close. Even so, I really tried to make the style much more simplistic because of the fact that I'm outside drawing these. Exploring different styles and keeping things as simple as possible can really take, again, some of that stress out when you are nature journaling. Since I don't primarily just draw outside, but I draw inside and outdoors, I have different journals to accommodate these different styles. Now, I'm not saying that you need a bunch of different nature journals. However, I do feel like they can be a little bit addictive. I like the flexibility of having different kinds of journals, and if you want to see more about this particular sketchbook, I will link the video that I made about it in the description. Because I'm using different tools like this water brush than I normally use, my art is going to look a little bit different and the style will be different, and that is totally okay. Keeping this whole layout very simple and just adding a little bit of information, I'm just putting down some observations, really does create a different style, but it's definitely one I like. Once I was back in the studio, I went ahead and just finished it up and tweaked it a little bit, but it's primarily what it looked like when I was nature journaling outdoors. Using different art styles in my nature journal really keeps it fun, fresh, and creative. And this particular journal, I wanted it to feel like a vintage nature journal, and so I am only using colored pencils, ink, mild liner, markers. I know that's not vintage, but watercolors just don't work well with this paper. Along with using pencil, I'm also writing as much as possible in cursive because I feel like it really gives it that old world look. I love how flexible this journal is because it's so very small. I hope this video encourages you to start your own nature journal or maybe try out one or two of these ideas. Thanks so much for watching, and if you haven't already, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. It helps me out so much and keeps me wanting to create online. Just remember, you are amazing and creative, and I hope you get your nature journal started if you haven't already. Have a great week. Talk to you next time. Bye.